Billionaire dumps Socialite for a street vendor. What she does next leaves him speechless. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses filled the grand ballroom of the most exclusive hotel in the city. Daniel Lockhart, heir to the Lockhart conglomerate, stood at the center of it all, wearing his signature tailored suit and a confident smile. At his side was Vanessa Sinclair, his fiancée, a statuesque woman with striking features and an air of effortless elegance. To the world, they were the perfect power couple. But as Daniel sipped his champagne and listened to yet another shallow conversation about yachts and investments, a wave of discontent washed over him. It had been happening more often lately, this feeling of emptiness. The parties, the wealth, the status, it all felt hollow. He glanced at Vanessa, who was busy entertaining a group of socialites with tales of their latest vacation. She was everything he was supposed to want, yet he couldn't shake the nagging sense that something was missing. Later that evening, as the crowd thinned and the event wound down, Daniel found himself stepping out onto the balcony for a moment of solitude. The cool night air was a welcome relief from the stifling atmosphere inside. He leaned against the railing, gazing out at the city lights, and wondered if this was all there was to life. Escaping the party already? Vanessa's voice broke through his thoughts. He turned to see her stepping onto the balcony, her smile bright but devoid of warmth. "Just needed some air," he replied, his tone neutral. "You've been doing that a lot lately," she said, narrowing her eyes slightly. "Is everything all right?" Daniel hesitated, searching for the right words. "I've just been thinking, she repeated, raising an eyebrow. "About what? About whether this is really what I want," he admitted, surprising even himself with his honesty. Vanessa's expression hardened, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face. "You're tired, that's all. We've been busy. Once the wedding is over, everything will fall into place." Daniel didn't respond. Instead, he looked back out at the city, his mind elsewhere. A few days later, Daniel found himself in a part of town he rarely visited. He had taken the morning off from work, needing a break from the relentless demands of his family's business empire. As he strolled through the bustling streets, his attention was drawn to a small stall tucked into a corner of the market. It was unassuming, a simple setup of wooden crates and a canopy, but what caught his eye was the jewelry, handmade pieces that sparkled in the sunlight. Behind the stall stood a young woman with dark, wavy hair and a warm smile. She was busy helping a customer, her movements graceful and precise. Daniel lingered, curious. There was something about her that intrigued him. When the customer left, he approached the stall, his gaze scanning the array of necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. "Looking for something specific?" the woman asked, her voice friendly. "Just browsing," Daniel replied, picking up a delicate silver bracelet. "These are beautiful. Did you make them?" The woman nodded. "I did. I've always loved working with my hands. There's something satisfying about creating something from nothing." Daniel smiled, impressed. "You don't see craftsmanship like this every day." "Thank you," she said, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I'm Maya, by the way." "Daniel," he said, offering his hand. "Nice to meet you." They chatted for a while, Maya telling him about how she had started her jewelry business to support her younger siblings after their parents passed away. Her resilience and optimism were refreshing, a stark contrast to the superficial conversations he was used to. As Daniel walked away from the market that day, he couldn't stop thinking about Maya. There was a lightness to her, an authenticity that he hadn't realized he was missing in his life. Over the next few weeks, Daniel found excuses to visit the market. Each time, he stopped by Maya's stall, buying small pieces of jewelry and striking up conversations. He learned about her dreams of one day opening a boutique, about the struggles she faced balancing work and family, and about the joy she found in the little things. Vanessa, meanwhile, was growing increasingly frustrated. She noticed Daniel's absences and his lack of enthusiasm for their wedding plans. One evening, as they sat in the living room of his penthouse, she confronted him. "Daniel, we need to talk," she said, her tone clipped. He looked up from his phone, surprised. "About what?" "About us," she said, crossing her arms. "You've been distant lately, canceling plans, disappearing for hours. What's going on?" Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know, Vanessa. I've just been rethinking things. Rethinking things? She echoed, her voice rising. What does that mean? It means I'm not sure this is what I want anymore, he admitted, his words hanging heavy in the air. Vanessa stared at him, stunned. You can't be serious. We're getting married in a month, Daniel. You don't just rethink that. I know, he said, his voice soft, but I can't ignore how I feel. And I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when it's not. Vanessa's shock quickly turned to anger. She stood up abruptly, pacing the room as she tried to process Daniel's words. So what? You're just gonna throw everything away? All the plans we've made? The life we're supposed to build together? It's not about throwing things away, Daniel said calmly, though his own emotions were swirling beneath the surface. It's about being honest with you, with myself. I care about you, Vanessa, but I don't think we've been in love for a long time. That's ridiculous, she snapped, spinning around to face him. Of course we're in love. We've been together for years, Daniel. You don't just wake up one day and decide it's over. Daniel looked at her, his expression pained. Maybe I should have said something sooner, but the truth is, I felt this way for a while. I didn't want to hurt you. Well, congratulations, she said bitterly. You've managed to hurt me anyway. Vanessa stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Daniel sat in silence, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He didn't regret being honest, but that didn't make it any easier. The next day, Daniel returned to the market. He needed the distraction, the sense of normalcy that Maya's presence seemed to bring. When he reached her stall, she greeted him with a warm smile, as if sensing he could use a bit of kindness. You look like you've had a rough day, she said, handing him a small box. Here, this one's on the house. Daniel opened the box to find a simple, elegant necklace with a small charm shaped like a star. Maya, I can't accept this, he said, touched by the gesture. Yes, you can, she replied firmly. Consider it a reminder that even the worst days have a little bit of light. He smiled, slipping the necklace into his pocket. Thank you. You have no idea how much I needed that. They talked for a while, and for the first time in days, Daniel felt a sense of peace. Maya's optimism and warmth were a balm to his frayed nerves, and he found himself opening up to her in ways he hadn't with anyone else. Meanwhile, Vanessa was not taking the breakup quietly. She confided in her closest friends, spinning the story to paint Daniel as the villain. Can you believe he threw me away? She said during brunch at an upscale restaurant. For what? Some street vendor? Her friends gasped in shock and indignation, quick to rally behind her. You deserve so much better, one of them said. He's clearly lost his mind. Vanessa smirked, a plan already forming in her mind. If Daniel thought he could humiliate her, she would show him just how wrong he was. Over the next few weeks, Daniel and Maya grew closer. Their conversations became deeper, and Daniel found himself spending more and more time at her stall. She introduced him to her siblings, two bright-eyed teenagers who looked up to her as both a sister and a mother figure. You're amazing, you know that? Daniel said one evening as they walked through the market after closing time. Maya laughed, shaking her head. Hardly. I'm just doing what anyone would do. No, he said, stopping to look at her. Not everyone would. You're strong, compassionate, and real. I've never met anyone like you. Maya blushed, unsure how to respond. But before she could say anything, they were interrupted by the flash of a camera. Daniel turned to see a paparazzo snapping pictures of them from across the street. Seriously, he muttered under his breath, pulling Maya away. I'm sorry. I didn't think they'd follow me here. Maya frowned, her brow furrowing in concern. Why would they care about me? Because they'll twist anything into a story, he said, his tone apologetic. I should have been more careful. It's fine, she said, though the unease lingered. I just don't want my life to become part of your drama. It won't, he promised. I'll make sure of it, but the drama was already brewing. The next morning, a tabloid headline blared, Billionaire dumps socialite for street vendor. The article was filled with speculation, painting Maya as a gold digger and Daniel as reckless and impulsive. Maya's phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends and acquaintances, some supportive, others questioning her motives. At the market, customers whispered behind her back, their curiosity quickly turning to gossip. Daniel, furious, called his publicist to demand the story be retracted. But the damage was done. "I'm so sorry, Maya," he said, showing up at her stall that afternoon. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "I know," she said, her voice trembling. "But this is my life, Daniel. I worked so hard to build something for myself. And now it's all falling apart." "It won't," he said, desperation in his voice. "I won't let it." Maya shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "You can't fix this, Daniel. You don't understand what it's like to have everything you've worked for questioned. To have people look at you and see nothing but a headline." Daniel reached for her hand, his grip firm but gentle. "Then let me help you rebuild it. Whatever it takes. I'm here." Maya stared at Daniel, her emotions swirling in a storm of gratitude, frustration, and doubt. She wanted to believe him, to trust that his intentions were pure, but the whirlwind of publicity had thrown her life into chaos. She had spent years building her small business, brick by brick, and now it felt like it was slipping through her fingers. "I don't know, Daniel," she said quietly, pulling her hand away. "This is my world. I've always handled things on my own. I don't want to be someone who needs saving." "You're not someone who needs saving," Daniel replied, his voice firm. "You're someone who deserves support. There's a difference." Maya looked down, unable to meet his eyes. She wanted to believe him, but the doubt still lingered. I need time to figure this out." "Take all the time you need," Daniel said, stepping back. "I'm not going anywhere." In the following days, the tabloids continued to spin their stories, but Maya focused on her work. She poured her energy into designing new jewelry, determined to stay grounded amidst the chaos. Her regular customers, though curious about the headlines, offered words of encouragement and support. But the whispers and stares didn't stop. One afternoon, as Maya was setting up her stall, a group of women approached her. They were well-dressed, their designer handbags and expensive shoes marking them as part of Daniel's social circle. "You're the one they're all talking about," one of them said, her tone dripping with condescension. Maya straightened, meeting their gazes head-on. "And you are friends of Vanessa's," another woman said, her smile sharp. "We just wanted to see what all the fuss was about." "Well," Maya said, keeping her voice calm, "now you've seen. Is there anything else you need?" The women exchanged glances, their amusement evident. "You're quite bold," one of them said. "But don't get too comfortable. People like you don't last in our world." Maya felt a flash of anger but kept her composure. "I'm not trying to be in your world," she said. "I'm just living my life." The women smirked and walked away, their laughter ringing in her ears. Maya clenched her fists, the encounter leaving her shaken but more determined than ever to stand her ground. Meanwhile, Daniel was facing his own challenges. His father, Charles Lockhart, summoned him to the family estate for a serious discussion. When Daniel arrived, Charles was waiting for him in the study, a glass of scotch in hand. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Daniel obeyed, bracing himself for the lecture he knew was coming. "What were you thinking?" Charles began, his tone stern. "Parading around with that vendor? Have you completely lost your mind?" "I wasn't parading her around," Daniel said evenly. "And her name is Maya." "I don't care what her name is," Charles snapped. "This is about the family name, the Lockhart legacy. You're jeopardizing everything we've built for some infatuation." "It's not an infatuation," Daniel said, his voice rising. "Maya is intelligent, talented, and kind. She's more real than anyone else in our world." Charles sighed, shaking his head. "You're being naive. People like her." "Enough," Daniel interrupted, standing. "I won't sit here and listen to you demean her. Maya has more integrity than most people in our circles. And if you can't see that, then maybe it's time to reevaluate what this family stands for." Charles stared at him, stunned by his defiance. If you walk out that door, you'll regret it, he warned. Daniel met his father's gaze, unflinching. No, I won't. As the days passed, Daniel and Maya continued to navigate the fallout from the media storm. Maya's business began to recover, thanks in part to Daniel's quiet efforts to spread the word about her work. He introduced her to contacts who could help her expand her reach, but he made sure to let her take the lead. I don't want to overshadow what you've built, he told her. I just want to support you. Maya appreciated his thoughtfulness, and slowly, she began to trust him more. They spent evenings talking about their dreams and fears, discovering a shared desire to live authentically and make a difference in the world. The tension reached a peak when Vanessa decided to make her move. She organized a charity gala, inviting all the city's elite, and made sure to leak the guest list to the press. Her plan was simple: humiliate Maya and Daniel in front of everyone. When the night of the gala arrived, Daniel and Maya were among the last to arrive. Maya wore a simple but elegant dress she had designed herself, her hair styled in soft waves. She felt out of place among the glittering jewels and designer gowns, but Daniel's presence beside her gave her strength. As they entered the ballroom, the crowd's whispers grew louder. Vanessa, standing near the center of the room, smiled coldly as she approached them. Daniel, she said sweetly, so glad you could make it. And you brought her. Yes, I did, Daniel said, his tone firm. Maya, this is Vanessa. We've met, Maya said, her voice steady. Vanessa's smile faltered for a moment before she recovered. How lovely. Tell me, Maya, how does it feel to be the talk of the town? Maya met her gaze, unflinching. I wouldn't know. I don't waste my time listening to gossip. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, but before she could respond, Daniel stepped in. That's enough, Vanessa, he said, his voice calm but commanding. If you have something to say it to me. Vanessa glared at him, her carefully crafted facade beginning to crack. You're making a fool of yourself, Daniel. Everyone here can see it. Then maybe it's time we started caring less about what everyone here thinks, he said. Come on, Maya. He took her hand, leading her away from the stunned crowd. As they left the gala, Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time, she realized that she wasn't facing this battle alone. The next morning, Maya woke up to a flurry of messages on her phone. Photos from the gala were everywhere, on social media, in tabloids, even on news websites. Most of the coverage focused on her and Daniel, with headlines ranging from sensationalist to downright cruel. Billionaire's new love, a Cinderella story or a PR stunt. Daniel Lockhart ditches high society for a commoner. Vanessa Sinclair's revenge? Maya groaned as she scrolled through the articles. It felt overwhelming, like her entire life was being dissected and judged by strangers. She thought back to the night before, to the way Vanessa had looked at her, and the sharp words she'd left unsaid. Maya wasn't naive. She knew this wasn't over. As if on cue, her phone buzzed with a call. It was Daniel. Hey, he said, his voice warm but tinged with concern. How are you holding up? I've been better, she admitted. It's a lot to take in. I know, he said gently, but we'll get through this together. Promise. Maya appreciated his reassurance, but a part of her couldn't help but wonder if she'd made a mistake by letting him into her life. She had worked so hard to build something for herself, and now it felt like it was all being threatened. I need some time to think, she said, her voice quiet. About everything. Daniel hesitated, but he didn't push her. Take all the time you need. Just know that I'm here. Over the next few days, Maya threw herself into her work. She expanded her designs, started collaborating with local artisans, and even began working on a new collection inspired by her journey. It was her way of reclaiming control, of proving to herself and the world that she wasn't defined by the headlines. But the gossip didn't stop. Customers at the market whispered behind her back. Friends she hadn't seen in years suddenly reached out, and strangers approached her with unsolicited advice. It was exhausting, and Maya began to question if it was all worth it. One afternoon, as she was packing up her stall, she saw Vanessa approaching. Maya straightened, bracing herself for another confrontation. May I help you? She asked, keeping her tone polite but firm. Vanessa smirked, her perfectly manicured fingers clutching a designer handbag. I thought we should talk. Woman to woman, Maya raised an eyebrow. About Daniel, Vanessa said, her tone casual but laced with malice. You see, I know him better than anyone, and I can tell you that whatever it is you two have, it won't last. Maya's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. She refused to give Vanessa the satisfaction. You're a nice distraction for him, Vanessa continued, but eventually he'll realize that you don't belong in his world. And when that happens, you'll be the one left picking up the pieces. Maya met her gaze, her voice steady. You know, Vanessa, you spend a lot of time trying to tear me down. Maybe you should ask yourself why that is. Vanessa's smirk faltered, but she quickly recovered. Enjoy it while it lasts, she said, turning on her heel and walking away. Maya watched her go, her heart pounding. She knew Vanessa's words were meant to rattle her, but they only strengthened her resolve. She wasn't going to let anyone dictate her worth. Not Vanessa, not the tabloids, not anyone. Meanwhile, Daniel was facing his own battles. His father had cut him off financially, and his social circle had grown noticeably colder. Invitations to events dried up, business associates started pulling away, and even old friends began to distance themselves. But Daniel didn't care. For the first time in his life, he felt free to make his own choices, to live by his own values. He spent his days helping Maya with her business, using his connections to secure new opportunities for her. It wasn't easy, but it was fulfilling in a way his previous life had never been. One evening, as they sat together in Maya's small apartment, she looked at him and said, "Why are you doing this?" "What do you mean?" he asked, confused. "You've given up so much for me," she said. "Your family, your lifestyle, your reputation." "Why?" Daniel took her hand, his expression serious. "Because none of that means anything without you. You've shown me what it means to live a life with purpose, and I don't want to go back to the way things were. I'd rather have a simple life with you than an empty one without." Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. "You're a good man, Daniel, but I don't want you to regret this." "I won't," he said firmly. "I've never been more sure of anything." As their relationship deepened, Maya's business began to flourish. Her new collection was a hit, drawing attention from buyers and boutiques across the city. She even received an invitation to showcase her work at a prestigious artisan market, a dream she had never thought possible. But success brought new challenges. Vanessa, unable to let go of her bitterness, decided to escalate her efforts. She leaked personal details about Maya's past to the press, spinning a narrative that painted her as an opportunist who had manipulated Daniel for her own gain. The story spread like wildfire, and Maya found herself at the center of yet another media storm. This time, though, she wasn't alone. Daniel stood by her side, speaking out against the lies and using his own platform to set the record straight. "Maya is one of the most hardworking, genuine people I've ever met," he said in a televised interview. "Anyone who knows her can see that, and anyone who tries to tear her down doesn't know her at all." Maya watched the interview from her small living room, her heart pounding as she listened to Daniel's words. Seeing him defend her so publicly brought a mix of emotions: gratitude, pride, and a lingering fear of what might come next. She knew Vanessa wouldn't take this lying down, and she was right. The next day, Vanessa orchestrated a press conference, framing herself as the wronged woman in Daniel's life. Clad in a designer outfit and with perfectly rehearsed lines, she tearfully recounted how she had been betrayed by Daniel, painting herself as the victim of a cruel love triangle. "I only ever wanted the best for him," Vanessa said, dabbing at her eyes with a silk handkerchief. "But clearly, he's chosen someone who doesn't understand our world. I just hope he realizes his mistake before it's too late." The media ate it up, and the headlines once again shifted against Maya. This time, however, Maya decided she wouldn't stay silent. She called her siblings into the room, her hands trembling as she made her decision. "I'm tired of letting people tell my story," she said. "It's time I tell it myself." That evening, Maya posted a video on her social media accounts. Sitting in her modest apartment with her jewelry designs laid out around her, she spoke directly to the camera. I've stayed quiet through all of this because I wanted to focus on what really matters, my work, my family, and the people I care about. But I think it's time to set the record straight. She took a deep breath, her voice steady despite the emotions welling up inside her. I didn't ask for this attention, and I certainly didn't ask for the judgment that's come with it. I'm not a socialite, and I don't come from wealth. I'm just a woman who works hard to support her family and chase her dreams. And while I may not fit into certain people's idea of what's acceptable, I refuse to apologize for being myself. Maya paused, letting her words sink in. I'm proud of where I come from, and I'm proud of the work I've done. If that makes me an easy target for criticism, so be it. But I won't let anyone take away the life I've built or the person I've become. The video quickly went viral, garnering thousands of likes, comments, and shares. People from all walks of life rallied around Maya, praising her strength and authenticity. Messages of support poured in, many from people who related to her struggles and admired her resilience. As the tide began to turn, Maya received an invitation to appear on a popular morning show. Nervous but determined, she agreed, knowing this was her chance to reclaim her narrative once and for all. The host, a charismatic woman with a reputation for asking tough questions, welcomed Maya warmly. "You've been through quite a journey, haven't you?" she began. Maya smiled, though her nerves were evident. "It's been overwhelming, to say the least, but it's also been a learning experience." The interview covered everything, from her humble beginnings to the media storm that had consumed her life. When asked about Vanessa, Maya chose her words carefully. "I don't have any ill will toward Vanessa," she said. "I think we're all just trying to navigate a complicated situation. But at the end of the day, my focus is on staying true to myself and the people I care about." The audience erupted into applause, and Maya felt a sense of relief. For the first time, she felt like she was being seen for who she truly was. Meanwhile, Daniel was working behind the scenes to make amends with his father. Despite their strained relationship, he wanted to show Charles that his decisions were rooted in genuine values, not rebellion. "Dad," he said during a rare visit to the family estate, "I know you don't approve of my choices, but Maya has taught me something I think we've both forgotten. That wealth means nothing if it's not used to create something meaningful." Charles studied his son, his expression unreadable. "And what exactly do you plan to create, Daniel?" "A life I can be proud of," Daniel replied. "One where I'm not just following expectations but building something real." "Maya's a part of that, whether you like it or not." For a moment, Charles said nothing. Then, to Daniel's surprise, he nodded. "You've grown, son. More than I expected. Just don't lose yourself in the process." As the weeks passed, Maya's jewelry business soared to new heights. Her designs were featured in major publications, and she received offers to collaborate with high-end retailers. But through it all, she stayed grounded, remaining true to her roots and her passion for creating. One evening, Daniel surprised her with a small celebration at her apartment. It wasn't anything extravagant, just candles, music, and takeout from her favorite restaurant. But to Maya, it was perfect. "You didn't have to do this," she said, smiling as she took a seat at the table. "I wanted to," Daniel replied, raising a glass. "To us, and to everything we've built together." Maya clinked her glass against his, her heart full. "To us." But just as it seemed like things were settling down, a new challenge emerged. Vanessa, unwilling to accept defeat, filed a lawsuit against Daniel, claiming damages for emotional distress. The news sent shockwaves through their lives, threatening to undo all the progress they had made. Maya and Daniel faced the situation head-on, determined not to let Vanessa's actions derail them. With the help of a skilled legal team, they prepared for the battle ahead, knowing that their love and determination were stronger than any obstacle. As the lawsuit loomed over them, Daniel and Maya leaned on each other for strength. For Maya, it wasn't just about the legal battle. It was about protecting everything she'd worked for. For Daniel, it was a chance to prove his loyalty to Maya and show his family, once and for all, that his love for her was genuine. Their lawyer, a sharp and seasoned professional named Claire, assured them they had a strong case. "This lawsuit is baseless," she said during a meeting at her office. "Vanessa's claims are built on spite, not substance. The court will see that." Maya, however, couldn't shake the anxiety that came with the situation. "It's not just about winning," she said. "It's about what this could do to us, to our reputation." Daniel reached for her hand, his grip steady. "We'll get through this, Maya. Together." The day of the first court hearing arrived, and the media was out in full force. Reporters lined the courthouse steps, snapping photos and shouting questions as Daniel and Maya entered the building. Maya kept her head high, her heart pounding as they took their seats. Vanessa was already there, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. Her expression was smug, her confidence unshaken. But as the proceedings began, it quickly became clear that her case was riddled with inconsistencies. Claire tore through Vanessa's arguments with precision, exposing her motives for filing the lawsuit. Witnesses were called, and even some of Vanessa's own friends hesitated under cross-examination. By the end of the day, the momentum was firmly in Daniel and Maya's favor. Still, the experience left Maya drained. That evening, as they returned to her apartment, she collapsed onto the couch, her head in her hands. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," she admitted, her voice trembling. Daniel sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You don't have to do this alone," he said. "We'll take it one step at a time. And when this is all over, we'll be stronger for it." As the case dragged on, Maya found solace in her work. Her designs continued to gain recognition, and she poured her emotions into her craft, creating pieces that reflected her journey. One piece, in particular, caught the attention of a high-profile buyer, a stunning necklace inspired by the stars. The buyer turned out to be a well-known philanthropist who was hosting a charity auction. When she invited Maya to showcase her work at the event, Maya hesitated. The idea of stepping into the spotlight again was daunting, but Daniel encouraged her. "This is your moment," he said. "You've worked so hard for this. Don't let fear hold you back." Maya nodded, his words giving her the courage she needed. "You'll be there, right?" "Always," he promised. The night of the charity auction was a whirlwind. Maya's necklace became the centerpiece of the event, drawing admiration from attendees and setting off a bidding war that raised a significant amount for the charity. By the end of the evening, Maya had not only gained new clients but also earned the respect of some of the city's most influential figures. Daniel watched her from across the room, his heart swelling with pride. When she finally joined him, her cheeks flushed with excitement. He took her hand and said, "You were incredible tonight." Maya smiled, her confidence bolstered. "I couldn't have done it without you." Back in court, the tides continued to turn in their favor. Vanessa's case unraveled further as more evidence of her spiteful motives came to light. The judge dismissed the lawsuit, ruling in favor of Daniel and Maya. The media, which had once been eager to spread scandal, now shifted its narrative, praising Maya for her resilience and integrity. Vanessa, meanwhile, retreated from the spotlight, her reputation in tatters. For Daniel and Maya, the victory was bittersweet. They had won, but the experience had left its scars. "I don't think I'll ever understand why she hated me so much," Maya said one evening as they sat together on her balcony, watching the city lights. "She didn't hate you," Daniel said. "She hated what you represented. Honesty, strength, and everything she couldn't control. But that's her loss, not yours." Maya leaned against him, the weight of the past few months finally beginning to lift. "I just want to move forward," she said. "No more drama. Just us." Daniel smiled, kissing the top of her head. "I think we've earned that." In the weeks that followed, life began to settle into a new normal. Maya's boutique opened to great success, becoming a hub for local artisans and a symbol of her journey. Daniel stepped away from his family's business to focus on philanthropy, using his resources to support causes close to his heart. At the boutique's grand opening, surrounded by friends, family, and supporters, Maya stood beside Daniel, a sense of peace washing over her. "This feels like a dream," she said, her eyes shining. "It's real," Daniel replied, taking her hand. "And it's just the beginning." As they looked out at the crowd, the trials they had faced seemed like a distant memory. Together, They had built something lasting, something rooted in love, resilience, and the courage to defy expectations. And for the first time in a long time, they felt truly free. The weeks that followed the boutique's grand opening were some of the happiest Maya could remember. Her boutique quickly became a popular spot, not just for its unique jewelry, but for the warmth and inspiration it radiated. Customers loved hearing Maya's story, how she had turned adversity into triumph, and they connected with her pieces on a deeply personal level. Daniel was by her side every step of the way. Though he had given up his place in his family's business, he found new purpose in helping Maya grow her brand. He managed the logistical side of things, negotiating deals, setting up a website, and even helping her organize workshops where she could teach others her craft. One day, as they worked side by side in the boutique, Maya looked up at Daniel and smiled. "You know," she said, "I never imagined my life could be like this. Not even in my wildest dreams." Daniel reached across the counter to take her hand. "You made this happen, Maya. Your talent, your determination, it's all you. I'm just lucky to be part of it." She squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me when no one else did." Daniel's expression turned serious. "And I always will." But as much as they tried to focus on the present, remnants of their past struggles occasionally surfaced. Vanessa had disappeared from the public eye after losing the lawsuit, but whispers of her next move lingered in social circles. Maya and Daniel knew better than to underestimate her determination, even in defeat. One afternoon, Maya received an unexpected visitor at the boutique. It was Vanessa, her once impeccable appearance now slightly frayed. Maya's heart raced, but she maintained her composure. "Vanessa," she said, her tone neutral. "What brings you here?" Vanessa hesitated, her gaze shifting uncomfortably. "I came to apologize," she said finally, her voice lacking its usual sharpness. Maya blinked, caught off guard. "Apologize?" "Yes," Vanessa said, sighing. "I've had time to think about everything, and I realized I let my anger and jealousy get the better of me. I was wrong to treat you the way I did." Maya studied her carefully, searching for any sign of insincerity. "Why now?" she asked. "Why come here after everything that's happened?" Vanessa looked down, her confidence visibly shaken. "Because I've lost everything, Maya. My reputation, my friends, my sense of who I am. And I realized that fighting you didn't bring me any of it back. It only made me feel worse." Maya considered her words, the mix of emotions swirling within her. Anger, sympathy, disbelief. But as she thought about her own journey, she realized that holding on to resentment wouldn't help either of them. "I appreciate your apology," Maya said slowly, "but trust takes time to rebuild. If you're serious about making amends, you'll need to show it through your actions." Vanessa nodded, her expression earnest. "I understand. Thank you, Maya." As Vanessa left the boutique, Maya felt a strange sense of closure. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a step toward letting go of the pain Vanessa had caused. Meanwhile, Daniel was making amends in his own way. He had been gradually rebuilding his relationship with his father, Charles, who had started to see the value in the life Daniel was creating. Though they still clashed on certain points, their conversations had become more open, more honest. One evening, Charles visited the boutique unannounced. Maya was surprised but welcomed him warmly, offering him a cup of tea as they sat in the small lounge area. "I wanted to see what all the fuss was about," Charles said, gesturing to the bustling shop. "And I have to admit, it's impressive." "Thank you," Maya said, her tone polite but cautious. Charles looked around, his expression thoughtful. "You've done well for yourself. I can see why Daniel admires you so much." Maya smiled, sensing a hint of genuine respect in his voice. "He's been my biggest supporter. I couldn't have done this without him." Charles nodded, then turned to her with a serious expression. "I owe you an apology, too. I judged you unfairly, and I was wrong. You've proven that you're not only capable, but that you bring out the best in my son. For that, I'm grateful." Maya's heart softened. She could see how difficult it was for Charles to admit his mistakes, and she appreciated his effort. "Thank you," she said. "That means a lot." As the months went by, Maya and Daniel's lives continued to flourish. They worked tirelessly to expand the boutique, launching an online store that reached customers around the world. Maya's designs were featured in high-profile fashion shows, solidifying her reputation as a rising star in the industry. But their success wasn't just about the business. It was about the community they had built, the lives they had touched, and the love they had nurtured. Together, they had created something far more meaningful than either of them could have imagined. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through the market where it all began, Daniel stopped suddenly and turned to Maya. "What is it?" she asked, smiling. "I've been thinking," he said, reaching into his pocket, "about how far we've come and how much more I want to experience with you." Maya's breath caught as he pulled out a small velvet box and dropped to one knee. "Maya," Daniel said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "you've changed my life in ways I can't even begin to describe. You've shown me what it means to love, to grow, to live with purpose. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Maya's eyes as she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." As Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, the crowd around them erupted into cheers. Maya laughed through her tears, her heart full to bursting. In that moment, surrounded by the people and the place that had shaped their journey, she knew they had found something truly extraordinary. The market was alive with the sound of celebration, the familiar hum of bustling stalls now mixed with cheers and applause. Maya and Daniel stood in the center of it all, their hands clasped tightly as if anchoring each other to this perfect moment. For Maya, the proposal wasn't just a promise of love. It was a symbol of everything they had overcome together. Later that evening, they sat quietly on the rooftop of Maya's boutique, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. The world below seemed so far away, and for the first time in months, they felt a profound sense of peace. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been?" Maya asked softly, her head resting on Daniel's shoulder. "All the time," he admitted. "But I wouldn't change a thing. Every twist, every challenge. It all led me to you." She smiled, her heart swelling with love. "You're not the same man I met at my stall, you know? And you're not the same woman," he replied, lifting her hand to kiss it. "We've grown together, and I wouldn't have it any other way." They sat in comfortable silence, the weight of their journey lifting as they looked ahead to the future. Their wedding was a reflection of everything they valued: intimacy, authenticity, and the people who had supported them along the way. Held in the courtyard of Maya's boutique, the ceremony was simple yet beautiful, adorned with flowers and lights that created an atmosphere of warmth and love. Maya walked down the aisle wearing a gown she had designed herself, her siblings proudly standing by her side. Daniel, dressed in a classic suit, couldn't take his eyes off her. In that moment, surrounded by their closest friends and family, they made their vows, not just to love each other, but to continue growing, supporting, and inspiring one another. As they exchanged rings, Maya looked into Daniel's eyes and whispered, "You took a chance on me." He smiled, his voice filled with emotion. "No, Maya, you showed me what was worth taking a chance on." The crowd erupted into cheers as they kissed, sealing their promises with the kind of joy that only comes from true love. In the weeks that followed, Maya and Daniel settled into their new life together. The boutique thrived, expanding to include workshops and community events that brought people together. Maya's story inspired countless others, proving that resilience and authenticity could triumph over adversity. Daniel found fulfillment in his new role as a mentor, helping young entrepreneurs navigate the challenges of starting their own businesses. He often credited Maya with teaching him the importance of purpose and passion, and together, they built a life rooted in those values. Even Charles, once skeptical of their relationship, became one of their biggest supporters. He visited the boutique regularly, marveling at Maya's creativity and the sense of community she had fostered. Over time, he and Daniel rebuilt their relationship, finding common ground in their shared admiration for Maya. One evening, as Maya and Daniel closed up the boutique, a familiar face appeared in the doorway. It was Vanessa, looking different, softer, quieter, and without the sharp edges that had once defined her. "Vanessa," Maya said, surprised but not unkind. "What brings you here?" Vanessa hesitated, then stepped inside. "I heard about everything you've done here. I wanted to see it for myself." Maya nodded, sensing a sincerity in her tone that hadn't been there before. "You're always welcome." For a moment, they stood in silence, the weight of their history lingering in the air. Then Vanessa smiled faintly and said, "You've built something incredible, Maya. I hope you know that." "Thank you," Maya replied, her voice steady. "That means a lot." Vanessa lingered for a moment longer, then turned to leave. As she walked away, Maya felt a sense of closure. It wasn't forgiveness, not entirely, but it was enough. Years later, as Maya and Daniel stood in the bustling market where their story began, they reflected on everything they had built together. The boutique had grown into a thriving brand. Their marriage was stronger than ever, and their lives were filled with the kind of joy that only comes from living authentically. "This place will always be special to me," Maya said, looking around at the familiar stalls and faces. "It's where everything started." Daniel smiled, wrapping his arm around her. "And it's where everything keeps growing, just like us." As they walked hand in hand, the market buzzing around them, it was clear that their journey wasn't just about overcoming challenges. It was about finding strength in each other and in themselves. Together, they had turned an unlikely connection into a love story that inspired everyone who heard it. And for Maya and Daniel, the best was still yet to come.